The Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria Center for Financial Studies, in collaboration with B. Adedipe Associates Limited, held its 6th National Economic Outlook session, which focused on the implications for businesses in Nigeria 2020. The roundtable session addressed the theme Managing Potential Risks, Unlocking New Growth Opportunities, and Influencing Government Policies, which brought together experts, analysts, and business leaders. The President and Chairman of Council of the CIBN, Dr. Uche Olowu, FCIB, in his welcome remarks, described the event as a platform to address ways of developing capacity in the banking industry and achieving a competitive Nigerian economy.
The theme for this year's edition is titled Managing Potential Risks, Unlocking New Growth Opportunities, and Influencing Government Policies. As earlier mentioned, our distinguished resource persons will avail their insight and expertise on these issues and more, which will no doubt equip participants with the tools needed in making expert business decisions and uncovering new opportunities. Without usurping the role of our distinguished speakers, permit me to lend my voice to an issue which I believe deserves specific mention. Our manufacturing sector has immense potential to be the powerhouse of the Nigerian economy. In the wake of the developments such as the border closure policy and free trade agreement, as previously mentioned, Nigeria now more than ever before should look inward to resolve gaps in demand for both consumer and industrial goods. We are also expected to develop the capacity to compete in an increasing globalized market. Unfortunately, due to infrastructural deficits, economic recession, and other such setbacks, output and in turn growth of the manufacturing sector over the past 5 years, on average, has been on negative.
Dr. Emmanuel Adamgbe, Special Advisor to the Deputy Governor Economic Policy Directorate, Central Bank of Nigeria, who represented his principal and the keynote speaker, Dr. Okwu Joseph Nnanna, gave a presentation on the monetary policy outlook, Nigerian business environment, diversifying government revenue, and the prospects for achieving its growth projections, amongst other socioeconomic issues.
Economic growth remains stable and positive, notwithstanding the slower pace of growth. The outlook is anchored on higher oil prices and production, continued reforms in the foreign exchange market, improvements in critical ancillary infrastructure, and prospect for improved agricultural performance. Achieving the growth projections require effective implementation of the ERGP, diversifying government revenue sources, sustaining the current foreign exchange stability by the bank, addressing insecurity in the country, and increasing the contribution of the non-oil sector. The outlook is predicated on the following tailwinds: deploying funds to critical infrastructure projects to stimulate growth, sustenance of peace in the Niger Delta and Northeast regions, to improve oil production, eradicate Boko Haram menace, to enhance growth-stimulating sectors like manufacturing and agriculture, de-risking the economy to ramp up construction, mining, and job creation through unfettered access to credit. Monetary policy implementation in Nigeria has been resilient. The CBN has avoided the implementation of time-inconsistent policies since the exit from the 2016 economic recession. Monetary policy will continue to be proactive, daring to move beyond traditional tools, and if need be, adopt heterodox policies that would ensure that macroeconomic stability is sustained while taking cognizance of economic fundamentals in the domestic and international environment. Therefore, we need to put our thinking caps and strategies on implementable measures. There are several low-hanging fruits in the fiscal space. These include the privatization of the moribund refineries, creation of public works program to create jobs for our youth, and partial diversification from the ownership of NNPC, just to name but a few. A robust policy framework is quintessential for unlocking the nation's economic potential and bringing to speed inclusive growth.
Dr. Biodun Adedipe, Chief Consultant, B. Adedipe Associates Limited, gave an overview of the economy and 2020 outlook.
Take the GDP of Nigeria and take government expenditure plans. The assumption I made there is that the entire budget of federal government for 2019, that is, they spent everything, which of course we know never happened. Anyway, then take all the state governments as well, add their money to that. All the 744 local governments, add everything they plan to spend. Put it all together, it came to only 9.89% of our estimated GDP for 2019, meaning that the bulk of the value created in Nigeria is by the private sector. So which means data from that perspective connects to what government said it will do. So the question now for us is, how do we encourage government to do what it said it will do? And the basic argument is, if there is anything that the private sector can do, why should the government engage in that? What do I expect in terms of growth this year? And what should your own organization be doing? What should you be looking at in terms of opportunities? Now, the World Bank said they expect Nigeria's economy to grow by 2.1% this year. IMF came with its own more recent, 2.5%. But we expect a tempered growth of 2.55%. And why do we say that? Because Nigeria is still spending money on infrastructure. Okay, if we keep spending on infrastructure, that will have an impact on what I said earlier on, velocity of transactions. And of course, ultimately, also help in terms of logistics.
Founder, Chairman Proshare Nigeria Limited, Mr. Olufemi Awoyemi, moderated the panel session that discussed the theme of the event.
For this whole idea of reworking it, talk to us. There are more and more and better educated people going to agriculture. It's no longer our grandfathers and great-grandfathers. It is true that many of them form the bulk of it, but in many cases we've succeeded on this nucleus estate initiative.
If you look at the data for Nigeria, between 2016, when the economy went into recession, and end of 2017, imports revived, exports also revived. But as exports continued growing, imports plateaued somewhere. In which case, imports stopped growing. But by 2018, imports also started growing again, along with exports. But something happened last year, and I picked that up from the GDP data. All right? Now, second quarter of 2019, if you profile our foreign trade data, you'll find that the structure of our imports had changed. We no longer spend most of our money on food imports. In fact, for the second quarter of 2019, we spent 41.78% on machinery and transport equipment. So when I saw that number, I went to research it further. You know what I discovered? That taking advantage of opportunities, some Nigerians were importing helicopters here and then exporting the same helicopters to South Africa, to United Arab Emirates, and one other country. Because they were taking advantage of the tariff structure, the incentive for transport equipment. So which was well directed. But of course, for them, they saw it as... It wasn't ring-fenced. Exactly. So it was not ring-fenced. So people therefore will import helicopters here. Instead of having here as the port of destination, they re-export to take advantage of that tariff structure. So that is why there's a big challenge. It's been on, because I've been a part of that convention since 1987. The tariff structure in Nigeria had always been an issue. And until we address that as well, we can't take full advantage of the trade agreement. Neither can we benefit fully even from border closure as we see today.
Dr. Uche Olowu highlights the major takeaways from the event and gives his perspective on the CIBN strategy for 2020.
What we have done is that, we reviewed our curriculum, our syllabus, comparable to world-class standard. Like I said, our benchmark with CFA. We have people who pass through that program will be fit for role in our banking sector and even other finance-related activities. And we also have introduced ethics and professional certification, which every member of the banking industry is expected to take. So we're both talking about improving the skills and the ethics of our members. And then we are championing the drive for a holistic body in Africa that will ensure that bankers speak one language and that we are the ones that people look up to develop this continent. The African bankers must intervene in the economy, but that without the knowledge and skills, which is the gap we're closing. So it's our programs are clearly cut out for us. We know where we're going to, we know how we're going to do it, and we will execute, painfully to make sure that we get all that is we have proposed to do.
Dr. Biodun Adedipe also speaks on the expectations from the proposed 10-year economic plan of the federal government.
Any national economy that wants to grow inclusively must choose a sector or a few that will anchor such growth and development. So the anchor, therefore, for such growth should be identified, and then incentives for that particular sector should now be offered. Then the second thing to do is that once you have settled for certain anchor sectors, the government should go out of its own way and go to those they've identified as investors in that sector, whether they are within Nigeria or outside. Okay? So if they go to them, they offer them this package of incentives and give them every assurance that if they bring their money to invest in that sector in Nigeria, that surely with the process of time, they will get good returns from their money. And then, of course, there is safety. Every investor is looking for three things. The first is safety, the second is return, the third one is liquidity, which means he or she will be able to take his money out when he wants to. Once they are assured of those three, with the package of incentives, we wouldn't have problem attracting FDIs into those anchor sectors.
Stakeholders at the end of the 6th CIBN National Economic Outlook stressed the need for public and private sector partnership to leverage and scale growth in sectors like agriculture, information and communication technology, trade, manufacturing, real estate, oil and mining to drive a productive Nigerian economy.